Hey ladies, so because I am an emotionally secure person who does not see the media they like as an extension of themselves, I will not proceed to defend an immensely popular and critically acclaimed show by giving it an unbiased and positive assessment. Cowboy Bebop was released in 1998 to almost instant super success thanks to being really fucking good, being on Toonami, and having a really good dub. Everyone liked it and it was heralded as one of the greatest anime of all time until it wasn't. The narrative around it isn't really any different now, but the praise for it has mellowed out a lot. Without any teenage girls to argue over which one you want to marry, the show's only ever really brought up when talking about the classics. However, I've been seeing a trend lately of calling Cowboy Bebop overrated. I mean, there's more than just this one tweet from a Smash player with 1k likes, but I'd rather not hunt up a bunch of similar posts because I'm lazy. The bigger problem with this tweet is the lack of ratio. In fact, the problem with most of these Cowboy Bebop is overrated comments that they seemingly face no opposition. Am I to believe that people have suddenly gained the ability to respect different opinions? No. According to the negative nannies on my anime list, Cowboy Bebop fans are rabid and don't accept any criticism, yet the top reviews are all pretty negative or mixed. And anything outside the Cowboy Bebop GIF and edit repost sphere isn't overwhelmingly positive either. Really makes you think, huh? The consensus of Cowboy Bebop being a great piece of audiovisuals with subpar writing, aka style over substance, seems to be growing and I won't stand for it. Alright, let's address the criticisms lobbied at the show. Number 1. I hate episodic shows. There is a lack of character development and narrative progress. 2. The story is lacking. 3. The characters don't develop. And 4. The art and music aren't that good. This one's pretty rare, but I must tackle it for meat writing purposes. I've done my best to represent the opposition faithfully, as they really aren't sending their best. The characters and music and animation carry well, almost like the show is actually good or something. Fancy that. Anyways. Alright, so as we all know, as we're taught in English class and advanced literature, if the plot isn't progressing, the story is bad. And if the plot is progressing, that means the story is good. End of argument. One of the biggest injustices that the death of attention span has brought on is that slower stories are basically anything that doesn't work at the rate of a thriller is too slow. A first episode like Attack on Titans is not seen as a great thriller first episode, but instead as a standard for what any story's opener should be. But me and my fellow slow story enjoyers here in Eagle Nation know that's not true, especially for Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop only has around 5 episodes that are centered around the actual plot, and everything else is an episodic adventure with little to no bearing on the rest of the show. First things first, if you don't like episodic shows, that's fine. However, if you think a show is inherently worse for it, you're fucking stupid. Unless you can confidently make a sweeping statement like every single cartoon and sitcom ever is worse than Breaking Bad, then this argument holds no weight. Actually, that statement will probably be a bit too easy for people to make because people really like that show. So let's aim a little lower. Yes, this one works. Alright, well, if you think all of this is inherently worse than this, go ahead and tell me with your whole chest in the comment section that you are lame. I judge shows based on their intention / goal and how well it succeeds at that compared to other shows. Seems pretty simple and straightforward, and most people would probably rate stories like me, right? Wrong. The world isn't that nice and pleasant and awesome. The episodic format of Cowboy Bebop works for its themes. Not to dismiss all criticism by hitting you with a "that's the point." But that's the point. The characters are always having all these wacky hijinks together. They find solace and in some sense of familia with each other, yet they all get too caught up in their own quote-unquote plots to realize that their best life is staring right at them, especially Faye and Spike. Probably the most popular criticism of Cowboy Bebop is that the characters never change or develop. The people that say this are right, for the most part anyways. However, it is not a criticism. What if I told you that was the point? Again, the majority of the cast doesn't have any significant development except for Faye. Jet has his episode, and after that, that's that for his whole thing, and he's not too different afterward. The main problem Bebop crew has outside of Ed and Ein is that they are too caught up in their own past. Faye realizes this towards the end of the show, which works because she was by far the most flawed character, so getting some actual growth makes her more sympathetic and makes Spike's stagnant character make more sense because, spoilers, Spike is someone who cares so much about le plot instead of his own fun slice of life that he fucking dies. Poetic, isn't it? Well, I think the show just made a better case for me than I ever could, so time to move on to the next point. The story of Cowboy Bebop is that Spike was in some crime syndicate with his bro and girlfriend, but they had a very messy relationship which ended in Spike leaving them. The syndicate doesn't like when people do that, so they attempted to kill him, but he got away, among other things. After losing everything and becoming a husk of his former self, he meets Jet somewhere sometime later, forming a bounty hunting group. Throughout their misadventure, they pick up some other goons, aka Dog, Faye, and Ed. They continue to have misadventures, but in the background, Spike's former syndicate is making big moves to do bad moves. The main villain of the story is a silver-haired, edgy syndicate dude named Vicious, a play on words meaning he is a vicious person. His other noteworthy traits are that he has a sword and that he only showed up a handful of times. One of the biggest criticisms thrown at Cowboy Bebop is about this guy, saying he's lame, has no depths, and is poorly built up / established. Whether or not you think this guy is cool or deep is up to you, but here's the deal. Who this guy is does not matter. At all. Whatsoever. He's just there for YouTube timeline videos and to build up to the ending. But why does he not matter? Let me explain. So, pro tip / cool way to make a nice cohesive story with strong theming is to make all your main cast be a different manifestation of that theme. Broadly, Cowboy Bebop is about dealing with the bad of life, not about fixing it, not about overcoming or getting rid of it, but about living with it. All the characters are in varying levels of caught up in their own past. Throughout the story, we have the spectrum look like this, but later on, it's more like this. Ed is mainly here for comic relief, but they also serve the purpose of being a foil to the rest of the cast. Jet is a pretty optimistic dude, so he isn't as weighed down as the rest. He's like the rock of the group. The real hard cases are Spike and Faye. As I said before in the spoiler section, Spike dies. He dies in a fight between him and Vicious shortly after losing Julia in a gunfight, which brings us back to Vicious. So why does Vicious appear so rarely throughout the story, before being a part of such a big moment? Simple. It's to emphasize how little of an actual presence he has in Spike's current life. It's been years since Spike tried to leave the syndicate, and while what happened was super messy and led him to believe he's died once, that's not really what happened. According to themes, we need to switch that interpretation. Spike has been given a new life, not as this crime syndicate dude trying to get with his friend's girlfriend, but as a bounty hunter making the world a better place. Not that Spike's some kind of super heroic good guy, but it's a way better place than he was before. But all Spike feels when faced with his past is detachment and anger. Vicious is a dangerous symbol of the past that Spike should otherwise avoid, but he doesn't. I think the first and fifth episodes best encapsulate the point of Spike's story and the themes of Cowboy Bebop in general. I'll start with the fifth episode first. You'll see why later. So Vicious is up to no good and does crime syndicate stuff, which leads to him growing in power and setting a trap for Spike to walk into by setting a big obvious bounty. Spike is aware of this, and instead of telling the rest of the Bebop crew what's going on and being a mature adult that would look away from this, he runs in head first and allows Faye to get in danger. And what did this fated rematch showdown between Spike and Vicious turn into? Nothing. A big pile of nothing. Vicious gets away and Spike almost dies but is saved by his crew. This episode ends with Spike being mean to Faye and pushing her away in a moment that could have led to them having a stronger bond. I don't think I need to spell out what this all means. You get the gist. Spike is caught up in the past, yada yada, he pushes people away, he ignores what he has now, womp womp womp. As for episode 1, the first ever episode, Spike and Jet are up to some humble bounty hunting shenanigans when they get to meet the criminals, a shabby dude and his nice girlfriend. Now, as a human being born with perception levels beyond the norm, I haven't realized these people are kinda like these other people. Yeah, so Spike ends up bonding with the lady a bit, but because she cares too much about her boyfriend, she sticks with him. In the final confrontation between them, the lady makes a desperate attempt to escape with her rage comic guy over here that she knows has no real chance of working. It doesn't work out well for them. Pretty romantic, but maybe a bit traumatic for our main guys. So, the episode ends with similar shots to the beginning of the episode. And drum roll, Bebop crew moves on. Despite what happened, they just make do. You can't sit down and think about all the bad shit that's happened in your life, wallowing in despair that it won't go away. You move on. You deal with it. You learn to live with it. You carry that weight. Something Spike couldn't do for the last pair of people he messed around with. So with all said and done, the main point of this section is that if you don't like Cowboy Bebop's writing, that's fine, I guess. But to make arguments in the vein of Vicious' role as a villain makes it bad, It just shows that your brain needed a bit more time in the oven before you were born. Just saying. Ask for something more objective. Cowboy Bebop is one of the best looking anime out there, and if you disagree, you should never be allowed to pick up a pencil. Those Sakuga compilations on YouTube with lo-fi beats or trendy TikTok music should be enough to convince you guys, but apparently not. Well, to be completely honest, most think the show looks great, but it's not the best of all time words anymore because it's like old or something. Wow, so the people who refer to good visuals in anime as good graphics think that, much like video games, older anime look worse than newer anime because that's like how technology works, right? This conception can get pretty bad. I still have not recovered from that one time I saw someone say Attack on Titan looks great for a 2012 anime. Holy shit. The absolute brain rot that digital effects have done on the general public is irreversible. Not only that, but anime fans nowadays are spoiled. Most popular anime are pretty good looking. Digital effects have done much to cover up the flaws in most not very flashy shovelware shows, and more anime than ever are being given actual investment rather than just having a handful of good looking shows a year. But what does being constantly blessed with good looking stuff have to do with Cowboy Bebop actually being a gorgeous anime? In response to my statement of how I like a certain aspect of something because it was done better than most, my friend responded, well, my appreciation for this piece of art is more pure and substantial than if it was born from relativity and abstract comparison, end quote. Now, as the great friend I am, I disagreed and cited my other lesser friend's argument. You may know him as Tatsuki Fujimoto. You need the bad to recognize the good. You need to have watched an actually shit show to realize what good is. But you need to watch a whole lot of good to realize what great is. And a whole lot of great to realize what fucking amazing is. There is no weak spot in Cowboy Bebop's visuals. Character design, iconic. Animation, fluid. Background art, more detailed than real life. Cinematography, top of the line. Consistency, better question is when does it not look good? Many great shows have sour spots and weak points in one aspect, but Cowboy Bebop had none. It was always delivering, on top of the directing keeping the less flashy moments still interesting. If you have only ever watched the Omega popular shows like whatever Mappa and Ufotable released, or like One Punch Man, you might be hard pressed to see how Cowboy Bebop could even be considered equal to them. Well, outside of just raw 2D animation, there's also cinematography, which is something the vast majority of anime lack, but Cowboy Bebop has it in spades. There's also the lost art of backgrounds. To this day, Cowboy Bebop has some unimaginably insanely detailed background shots that make the world feel so lived in. They've never been given their due. It's only when you watch hundreds of anime with the same green field, high school, Shibuya, Tokyo, empty desert, gray city, gray building do you come to appreciate not only when those things are done well, but when you get something wholly unique. Also, the music is top tier. There is no argument to be had here. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. I hope I managed to put Cowboy Bebop back into everyone's top 10, and if not, then damn.